Evening and welcome to and welcome back to
Welcome back.
others.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our faithful followers. Welcome to Faith, Family, and Finance. I am Schrendria Robinson.
And I'm Marcus Robinson, and it's been a minute.
It really has. It really has been a minute. We are so happy to be back with you, providing this series, this service, providing this service, having conversation, and we appreciate you for being a part of who we are and what we do and having conversation with us. If you are new to the platform, let me tell you a little bit about it. Family and Finance is a podcast that Marcus and I started
4 years ago?
4 years ago? Okay, we're going to go with the number 4. We're going to say 4 years ago. And we started this just as a conversation, talking about really the things that the name bears. We are people of faith, so we couldn't come and do any type of broadcast or have any type of conversations without talking about our faith. We are big on family. We love family. We are very family oriented. So we have to talk about family. And by virtue of who we are, we talk about finance. Yes, we talk about finance. So faith, family, and faith, family, and finance is how we've named this platform, what we decided to call this. And we just thank you for engaging us and thank you for welcoming us back. I see one of the participants says y'all are back. Let me tell you, this young lady, thank you so much, Zenata, has constantly said, when are y'all coming back? Y'all should do ABC and XYZ. And although we don't have the capacity to do all of that, we did feel that we have the capacity to come back in this season and to share with you.
Well, and it's so much that's changed. Last time, it was before COVID, right? Or maybe it was right when COVID was starting.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think that's what it was. It was in January. Mm-hmm. And COVID was just starting. So it's a lot that's changed. In terms of family, in terms of a lot of people's family. I mean, some people have missing family members as a result of COVID. Some people, their finances are not the same. Some people are better off. You know, it wasn't all bad. And one thing I will say about this whole COVID situation, it did help us to realize that family is important. And it helped us to learn that we need to go back to spending more time with family, more quality time with family. So yeah, it is what it is. We're back.
And so if you are new to the platform, let me just explain to you, if you're new to the platform, a little bit of what happens and how we set this up. We rely on your comments, your feedback to keep our conversation live, to keep our conversation upbeat, engaging. We want to be able to engage you. This is not the type of forum where you just come on and listen to us share our opinions each week. But it is a forum where we want to engage the listeners. We want to engage the viewers. We will not be the only persons on the platform. We will also have guests throughout the time. We will also have guests throughout our time on this platform. And so we are grateful for those who will come and share as well. I've kind of told you the things that we will talk about, and we just ask if there are specific topics, as you've always done in the past. If there are things that you really would like for us to cover, you want to make sure that we address, we ask that you share those with us. You share those with us in a multiplicity of ways. You can just type it on this platform in the chat, however you're watching. You can find this on Faith, Family, and Finance on YouTube and on Facebook, Robinson Coaches, Faith, Family, and Finance. You can find it under, or type to us under my personal Facebook page or Marcus's page, or You Think Bigger. Is that the name of your page?
I'm not sure if it's streaming to that one or not. It looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that it's streaming to. But like I said, we're back and we're having to relearn a new format too. So it's going to take us a little minute. I think we'll be good and better the next time, but we're learning as we go. But what were we talking about tonight?
I was in the middle of talking about the still talking about the platform. Here we go again. And you spring that.
I'm trying to get into it.
Okay, well, give me a few more minutes and then you can introduce our topic for tonight. But again, you can reach out to us. My goal is to make sure that, thank you, Ms. Adrian, is to make sure that for those of you who are watching it on my personal page, on Marcus's personal page, we want to make sure that we increase the engagement on the platforms page, Faith, Family, and Finance. So it's important to me that before we jump into it, that you also go to those Facebook pages and those YouTube pages. In particular, there's Faith, Family, Finance on YouTube, and make sure that you subscribe to our page on YouTube. That concludes my commentary and my opening remarks. Now, Marcus will introduce our topic for tonight, and we are ready to begin engaging.
So, poverty. We, interesting enough, I had a conversation probably about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. Just general conversation with some friends. No, it wasn't even that long ago. It was about a month ago. Just about what poverty is in a pandemic, and just how poverty in a pandemic looks a little bit different now than it did prior to the pandemic, possibly because you had a lot of time to save money for people who got PPP loans, for people who got any type of assistance, people who didn't work any type of assistance. It allowed you the opportunity to save money. Now, whether or not people actually did it, we don't know. But you had the opportunity in a lot of cases to save money. And so we were talking about what poverty looks like and how to redefine it. And my friend and I, we were talking and we said, okay, poverty might be a situation at this point where it's a mismanagement of time more so than money. Because the reality is, if you're in a position where you can save for a year or two, there was mortgage relief, there was rental relief. God knows, we know that there was rental relief. You couldn't evict people for the first year and a half. So there were people who didn't pay rent for an entire year or more. People who didn't pay mortgages for an entire year or more. So you had the opportunity to save. And so if we're in a worse position than prior to the pandemic with the opportunity to save, then we have to say, okay, what's the problem now? You know what I mean? Was it just a mismanagement of time? Was it a mismanagement of the resources that you were allotted? What is the actual issue with poverty? You know what I mean? Because prior to a pandemic, we could just say, well, you could have been born poor. You could have had some stuff happen to you that ended you up in certain situations. It could have been a multiplicity of things, but COVID pretty much put a lot of us on an even keel from the standpoint we didn't have bills to pay. So now,
and the one thing that you will learn about this platform, if you are new to this platform, is that even when we show up on this platform, and I think that's the beauty of it, we don't always agree. So you will see the times when we agree and when we disagree. And I think I love that about the platform.
It's okay.
I think a lot of times when I'm on platforms with people, they always agree with me or they always agree with him. I like it when we don't always necessarily agree. And so Marcus has titled this tonight, Poverty, the Mismanagement of Time, Not Money. Let's talk. The mismanagement of time, not money. He said a whole lot. Traditionally, when we think about the definition of poverty, poverty is a state where one lacks the usual amount of money, or I guess materials, that's socially acceptable to maintain a basic lifestyle. To maintain their basic needs. And what Marcus is saying is that during the pandemic, people who may have lived in extreme poverty, you're saying that they had the opportunity to receive more money than they've ever received before. So it sounds like your hypothesis is that was their chance
to come up
or to come out. do you believe that even in just a year or year and a half, they could completely come out of poverty? Or
what I said was you should be better off.
Better off. I think I can agree with that.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be wealthy, rich, and well-to-do. What I am saying though is if you didn't have $500 in your bank account prior to the pandemic, and you had a whole year of minimal bills, logic says that you should have more than $500.
But let's talk about people who maybe everybody didn't take advantage for whatever reason. I don't know. But if I'm living in poverty and I'm not even at the point of paycheck to paycheck, but I'm in extreme debt, and I get however much the total amount of the stimulus checks, if they would have qualified, people would have qualified for the stimulus checks. And if I again don't take that money and decide, oh, this is money I've never had before, let me clear my bills, let me clear my debt, and I take all of that money and I eliminate a credit card debt, I get rid of credit card, or I pay my car off, pay my car note, not getting ahead on my car note, but catching up because I was so far behind. Because I think a lot of times when people are in poverty and extreme poverty, they are so far in the hole. Sometimes any additional or any surplus of money that they receive is just enough to bring them out of the hole. So if they took the monies, the whatever monies they may have gotten, and just come out of the hole, then I'm still not any better off if I don't have the knowledge that you speak of. I don't have the knowledge. I don't know that I cannot pay my rent. That I can and it wasn't not pay the rent. It's whole the rent was what the word I'm looking for? Delayed, because you still had to come back and make up for it. You just couldn't put me out. But the landlord wasn't saying that your rent is forgiven. So what if those people didn't take advantage of that? Because we do have examples. I have examples of people who actually got put out during the pandemic. Stuff set out on the road from some landlord.
It wasn't the judges in South Carolina, in the places that we have rental property, because we had people who literally, we went before judges and they told us that we couldn't put them out.
I understand that, but you and I both know of a case of somebody who was put out.
Of course, there's always somebody. There's always an exception, but the reality is, by and large, people were not being evicted and people were not being foreclosed on in the pandemic. And so you're right, it wasn't any forgiveness in the mix. But what ends up happening is, think of it this way. If you got, it's a lot going on behind the scenes here. My wife.
I don't want to put the examples out on it, so y'all, I'm texting him like there are examples. I know people who were put out on the street.
She's clever, okay. But look, the reality is, you're right. But there were people who were evicted, who were foreclosed on, but those were some extreme situations too. But the crazy thing about this whole thing is, you're right, there was no forgiveness in the mix. But think of it this way: if your rent is $1,000 a month, and you go 8-9 months without paying rent, and you're expected to come up with this money at the end of 9 months, and you didn't have but $2,500 in your account in the first place, if that, it was very tough for people to come out of that. And so what ended up happening is, for people, a lot of the landlords that I know, we just had payment plans for people. So we didn't forgive rent, but what we did is we tried to work with people along the way, knowing that they weren't going to pay us all the money that they owed us. And we were trying to figure out how much of a risk we were going to be taking from month to month. But that's where we are. That's where we were.
That's where we were. Yeah. That's where we were.
Because it's not the case anymore.
Right. Okay. Okay. So your question again, or the statement tonight, our topic: poverty, the mismanagement of time, not money. So do you believe that during this season of surplus, many can attest to the fact that we've had a season of surplus. during the season of surplus, is it the case that people have mismanaged their time? And that's the reason why they're not in a better position, or are they still impoverished because they have mismanaged their money? Adrian has said when it comes down to money, wouldn't people need to know how to manage this more money? So the more money that you got, they would have to know how to manage it. Otherwise, they're going to end up wasting it. Mm-hmm. And so even though there was more money to be had during this season, where were the economic empowerment courses? Where were the financial literacy courses? April is financial literacy month. Where were the financial literacy courses? Where were the Zoom courses teaching people how to manage their funds during this season? Because many people may have experienced an uptick or an increase, and maybe many are still receiving an increase in their revenue, but do we know what to do with the extra that we have?
Well, I think
and that's a question. That's a good question.
I think it's a great question. I think it's a great point, because the reality is the reason I even introduced the time part in it was because we weren't going to work. Many places were shut down. There were plants that were closed. As you may know or remember, our family runs a staffing company, and literally there were plants that were shut completely down. No production. Okay, the only people who were really working were hospital essential employees, right? Okay. Hospital workers, and anybody who we deemed or the government deemed essential, right? So by and large, America and a lot of parts of the world had shut down as far as work goes. So what did we do with our time while we weren't working and receiving a check?
Okay. Well, what could we have done with it to generate revenue? I don't even know what this is about right here. I'm not even doing that because I don't even know what that is. But what could we have done?
Afraid to ask.
What could we have done? Again, I think everything goes back to education and mindset. And I had a particular mindset. You had a particular mindset. Those we may be connected with may have been thinking entrepreneurial or other streams of income. What can I do during this season to generate additional revenue? What can I do with my time? Since it seemed like many people had more. I didn't have more time. I'm saying that whole most time notion, yeah. I didn't have more time. And if you look at people who were educating kids at home and doing all those things. So what do we do? I know we're talking about the pandemic, but we're not talking about the pandemic. We're really talking about poverty, and whether it was 2020, 2021, 2022, how do we as a community, how do we climb out of poverty? How do we help others climb out of poverty? What is it that we can do? Poverty is something that is systemic. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is generational. It is a curse that is hard to break. How do we? And I think what Marcus is saying is, during the pandemic, you feel that there were a lot of people who had the opportunity to leap, but didn't leap or didn't leap high enough. We could have done more.
Who does that responsibility fall on, though? Is that like, obviously it's not in the homes in many cases, right? But you're right, financial literacy on YouTube. But where does that responsibility fall? Because think about it, for any community, we have community leaders. And do we have this expectation of providing financial literacy for our community leaders? Is that a part of the conversation? I don't think it is right now. I think it's pretty generic.
Well, I don't think people want to talk about it. I mean, I get that it may be necessary, and people want to talk about how to get rich, but people don't want to talk about really financial literacy. People want to just, well, show me how to get the money. Show me, give me the money. Give me a job. Give me this, give me that. But people don't want to talk about the process and go through the process. People don't want to talk about sacrifice. People don't want to talk about denial. People just want to know, how can I, and I hate to say it like this, get rich quick. That's it. Show me how to get rich quick. And I don't really want to hear anything else that you're talking about. They just don't. I love this point.
That's good.
That Sarah's making this. I love the point that Chris is making. I'm trying to understand for the people who have a car to drive and a smartphone, how they're still dealing with the lack of funds. Most of my immediate family have second jobs like DoorDash, Instacart, Bite Squad, etc. And there's financial literacy on YouTube. Yeah. And also there's free financial literacy information on YouTube. And I get that. We got to get out of our own way and take accountability. Amen. When I went on, no, I'm not talking to you. She always talking to me when I'm not talking to her.
Yeah, it did this morning when you was preaching. You imagine this. This pastor is praying and her phone starts talking. Her Apple Watch starts talking to her.
Yeah, it was so amazing though. I mean, it was right on time because I kept saying in the prayer, okay, we're going to get back. In the prayer, I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And I guess my wrist hit my watch. And Siri said, my pleasure.
And I'm like, yo, does Jesus sound like Siri?
Like God was speaking back to me. I had a whole moment in church. Anyway, when I logged on to Instagram earlier today, I think it was Instagram, to go to the Robinson Coaches or the Faith Family Finance page. And sorry, I'm supposed to be doing this on the web. Stop. I'm taking the watch off. I'm sorry. I keep hitting it. I'm supposed to be doing this live on Instagram as well, and I'm not. When I logged on Instagram, I want to make this point to Christian's point. One of the first things I saw was the advertisement that came up on a particular page, whether it's Instagram or YouTube. It was about DoorDash. And this girl was saying on the commercial, I don't know if it's true or not, maybe it was, maybe it isn't. But she said, I am able to pay my rent every month because of DoorDash. I can work when I want to work, as often as I want to work, and get my bills paid. And I believe it. Mm-hmm. I know it's advertisement, and they were trying to. The whole purpose was they were trying to get people. The advertisement wanted you to sign up to drive for DoorDash. So again, if you have a car, if you have a smartphone, between things like DoorDash and Instacart, people really can bring in additional revenue. You know, you had the whole thing where people didn't want to be, especially certain females, didn't want to be drivers for certain companies because of things that were happening, all kinds of crime. But if I'm just dropping the food off at your door, it's a well-populated neighborhood, and I'm just dropping your groceries and moving, I don't have to come into contact with anybody. That's totally safe. And I believe that people are opting for things like that, and they are, and this is going to take me to a slightly different point, but they are saying no to some of the social service, human service jobs that are out there that may still be paying minimum wage or at best $10 an hour, $10 an hour. And those industries are suffering because people are able to be more freelance and get multiple streams of income from other avenues. It's just a matter of if you want to go out and get it and how disciplined you are.
What's interesting is everywhere I go, as far as restaurants, it could be restaurants, it could be anywhere, anything that's service-based. Everybody seems to be short-staffed.
Okay, that's my question. Who's not hiring?
That part.
Who's not hiring?
We have clients right now that we should be staffing for, that we literally just, we have 10, 15 people say they'll come in for an interview, and you get 3. Mm-hmm. And out of the 3, 2 of them have stuff that make them not hireable. Yeah. And it's a little bit disheartening because that's just where we are. And what I believe, unfortunately, that may start happening is not only will we start outsourcing some of these service positions, but they're going to become robotic.
I can't imagine that part, but yeah, we have to think about we have to think about ways. I mean, I am all for pulling our people, pulling myself, our people, our generations out of poverty. But what I found, what happens is when people come into a little bit of money, a little bit of extra money. And I say any money that we've received, anyone has received during this pandemic. I don't care who you are and what the amount is, as far as the individuals that will be watching this platform. It's a little bit of money. It's a little bit of money. So the little bit of money that you have received during this time is not enough for us to go crazy and think that we can just ball out and live life without consequence of the years and the months to come. It's not the opportunity for us to go and buy every single thing that we ever wanted to buy. And this is who I'm talking to. I want to be clear of who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the people who were struggling financially pre-pandemic, received surplus money, and just decided to do whatever with it. I'm not talking to the people who at this moment, just with this comment, I'm not talking to the people who have jobs, who work hard, who have six-figure plus income, and receive bonuses and receive all these things, and receive additional funds, and you decide you want to splurge on ABC, X, Y, and Z. That's your prerogative. I get that. But if we are talking about trying to pull ourselves and pull our children and our grandchildren out of poverty, then sometimes life is about sacrifice and self-denial. And we have to say no. There are things that I know that I definitely, can I say this way? Yeah, I can afford to buy, but I choose not to buy. I choose not to buy because my priorities are just a little different, and I want to be very sure. I want to be very, 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 very sure, and I want to stack more cash um for future generations. Quite frankly, I want to stack more cash so that when I reach a certain age, I don't have to work if I don't want to work. I want to stack more than the minimum, or what the investors may say may need to be the basic amount I need to put away for retirement. I want to put more because I have been an entrepreneur for 20 years, so I'm funding my own retirement here. So there are sacrifices that we need to make, and I think oftentimes we don't think about sacrifices.
And there's an element of wisdom that you learn um, with this as well. I mean, you're right. We have to provide our own retirement. We don't have a 401k. We have to build retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even when it comes down to just daily living, you know, I think this pandemic allowed us to really define what our needs are and what our wants are. You know, I looked at everything that I wanted as secondary from the standpoint, okay, I have needs, I have wants, I have investments, right? So if I'm trying to learn a new skill set, I'm going to have to invest in that skill set. I'm going to have to invest in learning how to be or do something
Mm-hmm.
differently. And that's how I use my time.
Mm-hmm.
I developed a real estate course in that time, and it did okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it was my first time. It was something that I wanted to do, wanted to try, and it worked.
You said did okay. I said did great, but he's being modest. It did really well.
We're making investments, more investments.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
did really well. But go ahead.
But that's what it is. And my thing is platforms like this that we even try to create is to encourage and teach and train. The reality is we understand that this stuff is not the most flashy. This is not the most whatever, but it'll get you right.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for people that look like me, I'm more interested in us as being right than looking right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is kind of where we are, and I believe that another blessing that I believe COVID brought to us is the opportunity to talk to people under the age of 21. We can talk to our younger people and help them to understand that there's responsibility that come with all of these dreams and visions that they keep having.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not simply about them, that it's going to take a team for them to get there. I think one of the crazy things about the internet sometimes is that it gives the illusion that you can do things on your own.
Oh yeah.
And the reality is,
we all need somebody, right?
Everybody needs somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And if in whatever you've been given to do, if it's big enough, it's going to require a team, which means you're going to have a different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the skill set of team building, you have to learn it or get somebody who has it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what will happen is if you don't do that, what will happen is you'll get frustrated and think, maybe it's not for me, or maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'm not equipped. No, what you have to do is build a team. And the only way you know how to do that is to get started doing that.
Mm-hmm. You have to. When I think about poverty, and some of you, just bear with me if you've heard my story. Like, we grew up very differently, but one of the things I realized I didn't know. Most people say I didn't know. Hey, Summer. Most people say, "Oh, I was poor, and I didn't know I was poor. We didn't know we were poor." I knew. I knew. Because that was not where we started. I was in a 2-family home. My dad was in the military. My mom worked, and it was, at that time, it was just me and my younger brother. We were okay. We were good, and I remember when we were good. And then 2 kids later and a divorce. Yeah, it was very visible to my 16-year-old self that, oh snap, like, we don't have any money.
That disposable income was gone.
It was gone. Like, I knew that we were poor. And so for me, it came down to exposure. And for me, I still believe to this day that was my ticket. My brother's on. He was like, "Oh yeah, we knew." Like, I knew, but it came down to exposure. You know, it was the 2 of us. We were rolling, but then the other 2 came. No, I'm just playing. They may be on here too, so let me stop talking about them. When I say exposure, I mean this. Sports and things then are not like they are now. Like, these sports, these recreational activities, we know because our kids are just starting to play, they are crazy expensive. I mean, crazy expensive. But we went and we participated in everything that we could participate in because that was our way of getting exposure. For me, I knew that between reading and between participating and going to all of these events, getting exposed, that was going to be my way out. That was going to be the thing that kept me out of the house. So I year-round sports, cheerleader, track, band, basketball, you name it, 4-H, whatever we could do to go somewhere, because again, in that community, it didn't cost what it costs now to participate in these type of activities. And I knew that money wasn't there, but if we could participate in these activities, I knew that a way would be made. And so I was grateful for that. I was grateful for those opportunities. It was that education plus that exposure that helped me realize, oh, I don't always have to live like this. But if that's the only thing I ever saw, and I never went anywhere else, and I never saw anything else, then, and think about the children now who all they see is what's on their street. All they see is what's in their neighborhood. There are kids who live in neighborhoods in Columbia who've never been to the other side of town, don't know what the other side of town look like, don't know how other people live. If that's all you ever see, as Adrian stated, you're going to stay in that mindset. You're going to be like, poverty, yeah, this looks like what's around me. That's what your mind's going to be focused on. And you're going to think the only way you can get out is if you can be a rapper, or you can be a ball player, or you could be I hate to say it, but a video vixen. I mean, those are the only ways most people see how they can get out of the situation. And so we have to begin to find ways to expose our children and change the mindset. We're not going to change the narrative until we change the mindset. And changing the mindset of people, that's difficult.
It's $1 million question.
That is difficult.
Well, the other thing is, when it comes down to mindset, you mentioned narrative. Right now, we don't control our narrative. That's a whole nother life. But we've got to begin to tell our own stories, because the reality is, you mentioned exposure. Exposure for me growing up was literally going to fish fries in our fraternity with my father and my mother, where we didn't live in $1 million house, but I saw one. I talked to I talked to folks who had that in the 80s. The swimming pools, the tennis courts. We saw that once a year at the fish fry. And then it was a different set of kids that we met, but we were bonded by our parents. And it's just interesting how I wouldn't consider myself impoverished necessarily, but I went to the worst high school in Greenville. It looked like an elementary school.
Right.
But the reality is, having conversations with other kids and being exposed to other kids who went to more affluent area schools, it just helped me know that I needed to look at something different. Oftentimes, it was just exposure, which is what we try to do with our kids, and what hopefully more parents are taking time to do with their kids, because exposure can be free. I mean, it could just be driving across town in neighborhoods that you typically wouldn't go in. It could be driving to the next city. It might take you an hour to get there. Going to a state park, going to a state museum. Just something different. Asking your kids, what are you studying? If they're studying rocks, if they're studying something else, just take them there.
Right. Yeah. And we talked about that's good, Marcus. And we talked about I know we tried to ride around one time, taking the boys and riding it. And now, because kids have these things right here, like we didn't have this in the car with us on these devices, and they don't have them in the car, but it's always, oh, this is so boring. But that's okay. Education can be boring. Like, they don't want to ride around in the car and look at houses. I still love riding around looking at houses. And all of my realtors on here can attest to that. Can say, y'all now you get paid to ride people around to look at houses. I remember as a kid, ride me around and I would point and I'm like, that's my house. I can still take you to the street and to the house in a neighborhood adjacent to my neighborhood. And I said, that's the type of house I want to live in when I grow up. I remember that house. It was something I told you about it. I'll take you by it the next time we go over to. It's in Thompson, Georgia. It was a house. I was like, this is the house that I want when I grow up. But there was something about seeing that. There was definitely something about being able to see that and have something to ascribe to. It wasn't the house. Oh yes, Summer. That's my house. That's my car. When you ride down the street and you tag the person, that's my car. You do those things. Those are poor people games.
Yeah, y'all are way higher. Those
are poor people games.
Car, but
those are
my
poor
house?
people games. But yeah, you drive by a house and you're like, that's my house.
Oh,
and
wow.
so
maybe that's different between men and women too. We just wanted cars.
Okay.
Y'all want a house.
Okay, cool. Whatever, I'll take it. But I loved it, and I think what we need to take into consideration here. We started the conversation talking about surplus of monies or monies that people may have received, and again, maybe those of you who are watching, you may be in an income bracket where you did not receive any monies during the pandemic, but you could have had other windfalls, other ways in which you've received money. So we don't want to just limit it to people who received funds during the pandemic specifically because of what was going on. But I think we can't talk about receiving money without talking about spending. Oftentimes, let's not talk about Amazon. And I'm mad we said their name because they're not a sponsor giving us any funds here. But oftentimes, I go back to that word sacrifice. But that whole thing of denial, oftentimes is something that we can't operate in.
Wait. I got so.
Okay, go ahead.
See, this is why Summer and I don't get along all the time. She calls me a hater because she claims that she was focused on assets and I was focused on liabilities early in life. Look, that could have been the case, but God changed me.
That sounds like something she got from from you. That was a good one, Summer. That was a real good one. Yeah, you were focused on the liabilities. But I want us to think about spending, how we spend, and how we can curb our spending. What I can say also, I do believe as we receive more income that we definitely spent more money on these services, Amazon, DoorDash, Grubhub, Instacart. Let me tell you, and those of you who work in this industry know it to be true, or those of you who shop this way know it to be true. Because I'm a shopper and I go into the store and I know how much my items cost at Target or whatever store, CVS, Publix, I'm just naming them all. When I put those items in my cart on Instacart, you know what? Some of them, they are $1 to $2 more on Instacart than they are in the store. And the platform will even tell you that you are paying, that the prices that you are paying are not the same prices that are in the store. You get that in the app.
I want to hide it from you.
The food, there's a particular restaurant that I love. I was talking about it earlier today. I go there. I know how much the entree costs. It's $2 more just for the entree. I haven't gotten into the fee, the delivery fee, the anything like that. It's $2 more just for the entree because I order it through the app.
You gotta pay for that app.
As opposed to picking it up. I say that to say now we have just we're comfortable just ordering it through the app. They got us hooked and we're willing to pay more. You're paying for the convenience. Yeah, convenience costs, right? We're willing to pay more than to go out and to grab the items, order it from the restaurant and just pick it up where we'll pay the in-store price. When we talk about savings, I'm going back to your topic. Is it about time or money? Is it better for you to pay $2 more because you got something to do that will produce you more than the $2 that you just spent in it? Or do you really can't afford this that you're paying for and you need the money, so you need to go and pick it up? Is it about the time or is it about the money?
It's about the time. I'm with Jada on this one.
Did Jada say that?
Yeah.
Oh, Jada said it's about the time.
Yeah, I believe it's about the time. For some of us. The other thing is,
I know it's about the time for you, and I know Jada. I know it's about the time for Jada.
But if you look at it this way, let's say if you're paying 10 to 15% more just for the convenience, is it possible that you can increase your savings 10 to 15% more? You know, because what I found is the more convenience that I can afford, the more I can afford to save and the more disposable income that I found that I had.
Got it. Yeah. I
I
like it. But and listen, I want to bring this up, and I really pose it as a question.
But
yeah, and it poses as a question, and I think the answer to the question is really going to be based on the individual. For me, what I found to be true is that when I order it on Instacart, and even though I know I'm paying a higher price, I still end up paying a lower price because if I go in the store, now ladies and gentlemen, whenever you walked in the store, got the one item or two that you needed and walked right back out. See, I know me. That doesn't work. I don't work. I won't go in and get one or two items. So if I go in, I'm gonna get more. I go in Publix to get two things and I walk out spending $100.
I've seen it.
Yeah. So Marcus, just drive me to the little door. You know how they have the drive-through loop? Just put me out at the door. I'm just gonna go in and get two things and come back out. We got 5, 6, 7, 10 bags. So it is better. Adrian said the curbside pickup, but I gotta put this in here because my brother was talking to us about me the other day. Because as I was talking to him on the phone, I sat in line, y'all, for, I kid you not, it was 15, if not 20 minutes. Because I wanted the lower price point gas. Everybody knows on my side of town, Sam's on this side of town, you get the cheaper gas, right? Y'all, one of the pumps were out in the lane that I was in, and it took me 15 to 20 minutes just to get my gas. And I'm talking to my brother on the phone, having a whole conversation with him. And I'm like, yeah. There was another gas station that was right there. And actually, Joe, it wasn't 5 cents cheaper or more expensive. It was actually a 20 cents different, like $3.53 versus $3.74. I could have saved I saved a whole $3 for sitting in that line 20 extra minutes. And for me in that moment, it wasn't worth it. I had stuff to do. I had so much stuff to do, and I stayed in that line 20 extra minutes. And so, Marcus, my brother, they all say, look, I'm not looking at the price of the gas tank. Of the gas. We need gas. We're driving. We need gas. I'm not looking at the price. I'm just going to pull up to the station that's convenient, going back to Jada's point of convenience, that's convenient, and I'm going to get my gas.
It's going to be on the same side of the street.
Yeah, it was.
It's going to be on the way.
It was. I literally, though, it was 20 cents difference. It was a 20 cent differential, and I needed 15 gallons in my tank. So
wow.
I saved $3. But I didn't feel good about that moment.
Now we know it's not worth it. In this case, right?
For me, it wasn't worth it. But if it's a person who has a lot more time on their hand, there are some people who feel like, who they have more time than money. And they will sit there and they're going to wait and they're going to get that savings. My thing is this, Marcus, because we got to prepare to close. What are we doing with our time? How can we, generate more revenue with the time that we have, if that's our goal? And I mean, I'm not even talking about starting another business for people. I'm not talking about any of that, but I'm just talking about if you use more time managing your funds, if you use more time being efficient in the business that you do have or the company that you do work for, making sure that you're not making mistakes, making sure that you have, that you're organized. Oh, don't let me get there. Jada and I was talking earlier today about organizing things in the home and things of that nature. It takes time to just be organized. And when you're organized, you don't have to look for stuff. You don't have to look for things. You can start your day better. You can be more efficient. And so all of these things, when we're talking about our time and these systems and things that we can put in place, for me, it still all leads back to our money and to us being better off just by things that we do with our time.
But interesting enough that you said organization. I don't know when it was. Maybe it was last year this time. You hired somebody to come in and organize your closet.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Look, it takes time or money, right? You didn't have time to do that. And you got tired of your closet overflowing. And this person developed systems in your closet that helped you even now. You go in now and you really go in and you pick what you're going to get, you get dressed and you're out. Versus you bring in 4 outfits, you throw them on the bed and see what works. Right? I think that's money well spent. We might need to spend some more of it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. But yeah, even when it comes down to decluttering our brains, decluttering our lives. If you write down everything that you're doing this week, you're going to find that you probably need to declutter. You need to quit some stuff. In order to be more efficient, you're going to have to quit some stuff. The things that are not producing, the things that everybody's put expectation on you to do, be, have, maybe it's not that time. Or maybe that season's over. You had it. Do something else. Because having stuff sometimes causes you stress and anxiety.
It does.
So it's almost like, okay, do you really need 35 t-shirts?
It does, yeah. It costs, yeah.
And then now when it's time to wash clothes, you're trying to figure out, why do I have so many clothes?
It does.
You got 30 days of t-shirts. That's why.
Yeah. And you put on different.
And you've not done anything else. Yeah. So little stuff. But yeah. 5 hours.
Well, oh yeah, it takes a long time. She was saying to finish the organization or organizing, and decluttering and throwing things out. My thing is when I spend that much time and I don't throw it away. Yeah, Marcus wanted me to just
today.
He didn't say throw away. You just said get rid of or something.
No, it was like...
You didn't say throw it away. You didn't say throw it out.
Right. I didn't say throw it out, but that's what I meant.
Yeah. He didn't mean throw it away, but he wanted me to get it out of the house. Everything in the house that doesn't fit me anymore. It's like, why are you still holding on to it?
Because she looks amazing. She's doing all this work. And I'm like, yo,
he was like,
are you trying to go back to something?
I'm not, but everything is a mindset. Adrian said before, poverty is a mindset. You know, I have to get my mind around this and say, okay, this is where I am and this is good, and not go back. Thank you for the compliment.
So when you go out of town, can I help you?
No. So I'm going to get the clothes altered.
Jada says she's telling you the same
thing. Jada does tell me the same thing.
Jada
says all my clothes are too big. They look.
We're gonna have a sidebar conversation because I might need some assistance. I'm so serious.
Anyway,
we need to do an intervention.
So we're gonna work on our mindset. We're working on our mindset. So, but I do encourage you as we wrap up tonight, because Jada and Marcus tag teaming. Okay, so I do want to wrap up tonight with this. We want to make sure. I think that what I believe, and it's been proven, that what we write down, we are more likely to carry out those things that we write down. Even more so what we write than what we type. And so as we write down, I want us to really look at going into the month of May as we're preparing for summer and vacation and all these things. I really want us to begin to write down our goals when it comes to our finances, and our goals as it pertains to how we spend our time. Because there is a strong correlation between this time and money. There's a very strong correlation. And I think that once we begin to do a lot better with our time, we're going to see a better plan unfold with our money. And it's not going to be one where we have to work ourselves to death. Because that is a pet peeve of mine. Like I love a pet peeve of mine is that we have these financial goals and we work and we work and we work and we work and we work. And we don't have time to enjoy anything. We don't enjoy life because all we can do is we're working to pay bills and working to eliminate debt. And so that's not what I'm saying. I believe that we should live life. We should enjoy our life, enjoy our time. But we have to set goals. Don't set any, if it's just, just looking at the summer, don't set any more than 3. Don't set any more than 3 for the summer. And work on those 3. 3 as it pertains to your time and 3 as it pertains to your money.
And then ask the question, when you're goal setting, ask what does it do for you and what does it do for others? Because what you're going to find is most of the time when we set goals, it's based on what we saw someone else do. It's based on what we've been exposed to. So it's like, okay, if I saw that this person did X, Y, and Z and they got X, Y, and Z for it, maybe my goal should be linked to their goal.
Oh yeah, nah. Mm-mm.
So really, when it comes down to goal setting, knowing where we are and having that honest conversation about where we are is very, very important. Because the reality is, if you're making $10 an hour today, that's not a place that you have to stay. But I don't know if saying in the next 6 months I'm gonna make $50 an hour.
Right.
I don't know how realistic it is.
It has to be realistic.
And the question then becomes, what did you do? And what kind of value did you create in 6 months to do that? Because in that alone, you should get out of that $50 job and start teaching everybody else how to do it. And 10x what you're doing. So everything is relative. But when it comes down to setting goals, we definitely want to think about what we get out of it, but what do others get out of it as well? Because we're blessed to be a blessing. So
yeah. I love it. Philanthropy. I love it. One of the best things that you can do, since we're going to end this note on with philanthropy, if you will. One of the best things that you can do, I read this in one of my fundraising books or something, but so don't take offense. But the best thing you can do for a poor person is not to be one. And I hear so many people say, "Oh, I want to start a charity. I want to start a nonprofit. I want to do this because I want to help people." I tell people, run your race and do a great job in your corporate setting, and join a board or serve or donate in some type of way to that nonprofit, and you will be a better blessing to them than going out there just to start another one. It's so many out there. This time is really difficult. It's really hard. I still have lots of people who come to me and say they want to start a nonprofit. They want their 501c3, and it is so hard. I'm still waiting on one company to get their stuff back. I feel like I've been waiting forever. You know what? Maybe I just need to start over with them. But it is no one wants to work. So unless you're gonna work it, especially when you're talking about nonprofit, you don't start off with hundreds and thousands of dollars to pay people, and so it's very difficult. If you want to be a blessing to those in those industries, continue to be at the top of your game, and then make sure you just pay it forward and help other organizations. So
we'll have another live talking about how we add value.
okay, how we
Because
add value.
ultimately, money follows value and vision.
Money follows values and visions. Where's my scribe tonight? Should I ask her to be on? Oh, so she can type that. Money follows values and vision. I love it. Listen, everyone, I want to invite you to come back with us next week. Please come back next week. Next week, we are going to talk about this housing market. This booming housing market. We're going to talk about lending. We're going to talk about building, buying a home, selling a home. Should you buy? Should you sell? Kristen is on tonight. Thank you, Kristen. We are going to have Kristen Johnson on with us on next week, as well as Sherman Burnett will be with us next week. And I want all of you to share the news and tell others that Faith, Family, and Finance is back. And we will be here at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, JoJo Burnett, for watching us from Texas. Thank you in Central Standard Time. So we do appreciate you. Spread the word over there as well. And everybody, have a great night.
Take care.